I would say the biggest employment sector in Nigeria is retail. You would see a lot of shops coming up and a lot of shops dying down. The way the economy works.
So when it comes to Nigerian retail market versus African retail market versus the world, so how do you see it?
In Nigeria, it's still tilted. In Africa, I would say some of the countries like Senegal, they have gone more towards modern trade. South Africa, they have gone more towards modern trade. But there are countries like Uganda, there are countries like Congo, they are still more towards the traditional trade. Startup is should not just be about making money. Money should be an outcome, but beyond that, you should be able to solve a problem. If you're not solving a problem, you're forcing to fit a product in the,
भाई कैसे हो?
all good.
आज जो गेस्ट हैं, लेट हिम इंट्रोड्यूस हिमसेल्फ. आई वांट हिम टू इंट्रोड्यूस हिमसेल्फ टू द ऑडियंस. भाई अपने बारे में कुछ बताओ. आप कहाँ से हो, क्या करते हो, हम कैसे एक दूसरे को जानते हैं?
Great. तो मेरा नाम अंबर है. बेसिकली आज से करीब 10-11 साल पहले, right? We joined this organization called the Tolaram Group. I think that was the first time I met you. I come from a very humble background. I think the more we will go in the discussion, we'll talk about it. But basically, that was my first stint in the corporate world. That was my first job when I met you. And या तब से हमारी मुलाकात है. तब से मैं
जानते एक दूसरे को?
या तुमको जानता हूँ. और so far last 10 years have been good in terms of how the professional career has spanned, how we have progressed in our life. So
प्रोफेशनली एंड पर्सनली.
and personally both.
Okay.
Sure.
अपने एजुकेशन के बारे में कुछ बताओ.
So it starts with a very unique story. So like I was telling, I was born and brought up in a very small village. It goes by the name Ludeg. It's a village then in Madhya Pradesh. Now the state has separated, so now it's in Chhattisgarh, and it is known for tomatoes. So it has the kind of highest production of tomatoes in the central belt of India. So I was born, brought up there. My dad was very keen on making sure that we are 3 brothers actually. So all the kids get good education. So I studied there till 5th, and I was prepping up for one scholarship test, which happens. So every district in India has this one school, which is a central government scheme where all your education is taken care by the government. And I appeared for that exam. Fortunately, I got into it. And the next 7 years was what I would say the pivotal time of my life. I mean, that foundation block of education changed the whole course of how my career and how my trajectory of life started. Because I say so. The reason is a lot of people contemporary who used to study with me, I've seen how they're doing. Not that things are very bad or anything for people, but the kind of exposure I could get in my life, I would owe a lot to the education which I got. So I studied there for 7 years in a residential school. Pretty Harry Potter kind of story. Those 7 years, we used to have 4 houses, all co-curricular activities, music, games, and whatnot. We'll maybe go deeper into that when we explore those topics. So there, I completed my education. Then appeared for like a typical Indian crowd. Either you go and become a doctor or you go and we don't. So that's one of the thing which I also want to highlight, that we normally in current education system in India do not have essentially a career counseling or at that age, and you don't have a lot of exposure that what you want to pursue or look for. So yeah, I mean, like a typical me too, I also
joined the crowd.
I appeared for the engineering, went into, and I did my engineering from NIT Raipur. It was civil engineering, which I studied. And looking back, I still feel, I mean, analytically, I mean, a lot of education you can get from there, but I have really not, practically done any kind of civil engineering so far in my life. So did engineering. While doing engineering, there's another very interesting story. Like we were like 4 of us. We used to live in a PG. 3 of them, they were kind of very clear what they wanted to do in their life. So they were prepping up for the further studies. And on one common Sunday, they said that, why don't you also join along? There's a free test happening, and if you top on the test, they'll give you some concession on the fees. So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. Luck was there. So somehow I came in top 3. And the coaching institute, those guys said that, because you are a good prospect, maybe we'll give the whole coaching for 2 years for free.
Scholarship
Kind of. It's not a scholarship, but the coaching institute kind of wanted to get more people who they have a better future prospect. Once somebody succeeds and is associated with a coaching institute, they normally,
The big
get
thing.
more marketing out of it. So that's how it started. That last 3rd year and 4th year, that final year, I was prepping up for CAT. I gave CAT, cleared it, got a single call from IMK. And there is also a small luck factor. Earlier, it was just about a CAT percentile, which used to make sure that how you get your call from any B school. In that year, they kind of opened up the whole criteria that it would not just be the CAT score, the exam score, but it would be about your previous background, 11th, 10th, 12th, and what other things you have done in your life and stuff like that. So it was my single call. Fortunately, I was able to convert it, went into the B school, and that's where I did my MBA. Post that, coming back to the story how we met, I think. Interesting stuff, how I got the job as well. Normally in B schools, campus placement starts somewhere about January, February, and that's when the day 0, day 1 kind of companies come. In that year, Tolaram Group from Nigeria, they came in for lateral hiring. So they were hiring people who were experienced. Like I was telling, I straight away jumped from my engineering to B school. So I did not carry any work experience then. So on that day, they opened up. They were not getting enough of lateral candidates, so they opened up the list. And it was I vividly remember. I mean, we guys were playing badminton in the school, and the placement coordinator came and said that you are one among the shortlisted. Would you like to go ahead for the interview? I was like, why not? Let's give it a try. I went in, got through. That's how the Africa chapter happened. And 2013 is when we came to, so it was.
So Nigeria was your first job.
Yeah, Nigeria was my first job, although not my first paycheck. Back in school, sometimes, among our friends, there used to be competition that, okay, this magazine, Reader's Digest used to come, some other magazines used to come. They used to call for entries. So I wrote a poem back then in school, and that got me my first paycheck of 250 rupees. So that was my first paycheck.
First paycheck after this one.
Yeah.
So currently, what is your profession?
So right now I work in a startup called Omni Retail. I head the business division of OmniBiz.
Okay.
So Omni Retail have 3 broader divisions.
Okay.
There's a fintech division, which is OmniPay. Okay. There's a retail division, which is OmniBiz. And there is a distributor management system tool, which is a SaaS based division, which is Amplify.
Okay.
So among the 3 divisions, I had the retail division of the company. So that's what I do. To put it in a simple manner, my major task is to acquire, retain, and grow the typical retail outlets, mom and pop stores. And roughly, we are working with close to 100,000 plus retailers in Nigeria
as of now.
Yeah.
So, like, you're looking after the retail sector. So, in your past 10 years, how you have seen retail sector growing?
So, I have been a sales and marketing guy through and through. I mean, my first job.
More of marketing.
Yeah, more of marketing. Later, did a sales stint a little bit as category manager, but then moved back again on the overall. So right now, what I'm doing, I cannot say I'm sales or marketing. I'm more like a business builder kind of guy for now. So in last since 2013 till now, I have had my fair share of understanding of how goods move in Nigeria, how a traditional trade work, how the modern trade works, what are the different channels and stuff. So I would say the biggest employment sector in Nigeria is retail. It has the lowest barrier to entry. Think it like anybody has a job, and either I'm a spouse. So if I have to start something, I would just take a small capital, and if I'm living in a street, I would just start a shop. It can be a tabletop, it can be a structured proper shop, it can be a small mini mart, and things like that. So retail in Nigeria is big. It also has because low cost of entry, I was saying, it also has a feature that you would see a lot of shops coming up and a lot of shops dying down. The way the economy works. So in the troubled time, the way it is happening for past 1.5 year, we do have seen that a lot of stores have gone through a very troubled time.
So when it comes to Nigerian retail market versus African retail market versus the world, so how do you see it?
So like I was saying earlier, typically how retail is nothing but a channel for a manufacturer when they're producing a good. How it goes to the end consumer is what that's where the retail plays the biggest part. Most of the African markets, they are majority of them, they are dependent upon open market kind of structure. Now, to explain a little bit more, open market is essentially a one
It's a
place,
wholesale market.
yeah, which is like a wholesale, and that's where majority of distributors would sit. Large bulk, products will go in that place, and then a lot of people will hoard together in that place, and then take it slowly. So it works like a feeder system. Whereby in more developing or developed world, the likes of modern trade, the likes of Walmarts and stuff, they have taken the bigger role where it's not essentially a concentrated area, but it's more like series of stores where people can directly go in, and end consumer or purchasers, they can go in and they can make the purchase decision. So in Nigeria, it's still tilted. In Africa, I would say some of the countries like Senegal, they have gone more towards modern trade. South Africa, they have gone more towards modern trade. Um, but there are countries like Uganda, there are countries like Congo, they are still more towards the traditional trade.
Traditional trade.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I know this story, like you were telling me before also that you did a startup in India for some time.
Sure.
So what was it and how can you compare your startup journey in India versus Nigeria?
So I did my corporate job for good 5.5 years. And there was this, you call it chul or, kida inside you, where it's always about
Doing my own.
what's the legacy you're leaving behind when you're gone from this world. A career has normally a 30-40 years odd time, and if you're just working for somewhere or for someone or for a regular system, you're always like, okay, am I creating something or value? Those kind of thoughts led me to give it a fair try. I was still in my prime financially, I was independent, not married, so I was like, okay, this is the time, I should give it a try. 5 years into the job, I quit my job, went back to India. And funny enough, before I chose upon which place I need to start and what to work on, I had like couple of ideas. I was not, pinpointed on one idea only. So I traveled to Mumbai, I traveled to Delhi, I went to Bangalore, and finally, based on certain factors, which I would, explain a little bit more. It's around the network you can get. It's around the vibe of the place, how you are feeling around, and even your personal, network, how you have. I think those were the couple of factors which led me to decide I would do it in Bangalore. And I started this startup called Vipul. It's a short form of We People.
Okay.
And the startup was about a social enterprise where we were an e-commerce store. We used to sell t-shirts, and the idea was very fair, simple. You buy a t-shirt. It was a unique, quirky t-shirt, and by buying a t-shirt, you're also impacting a life.
Okay.
So we used to give
With the quote.
Yeah, we used to give a direct transparency around who you are impacting. So we were working with a lot of NGOs as partners, along with selling the product, and that was the whole idea. I started it in 2019 January. To brew about the idea, to pivot and all that bit, it took me good 6-7 months before I could work on the final outcome. So September thereabout, we started Vipul properly, and it ran its fair share of 6 months before COVID hit in. And I was still trying out. I was still fairly new. I was still trying to, get hold on to the business and overall cash flows, making it profitable, trying to raise some funds. But then COVID happened, and then I had to kind of come back to my drawing board and say that, okay, what are my options? And that's when, I had to kind of take a call that let me shut it down for now. and I did some consulting project. Fairly, then I got another chance. One of my batchmates, she was also into startup, so she was working on her business idea, and she said, "Why don't you join in?" So I joined in there. I worked there for good 6 months as COO in that company. It was Freebirds.
Freebird.
The idea around Freebirds was like Airbnb of experiential learning.
Mm.
So you get these cool hosts who are either taking you through a virtual tour of France or Italy or Nigeria for that matter, or you are getting a great chef who is telling you about how to make good, cool
food.
things, good food. Somebody who is talking about go organic and stuff like that. So these were the hosts, and we were trying to grab as many audiences in that time. And people were not on the road. In that time, it was all about going as much as online and doing all that stuff, right? So good 6 months I was there. But it was still a very strong passion project. And my funds were dried up because of me trying all out approach on my startup and this bit. So I was like, finally, I had an amicable depart from this company, and I approached for further opportunities. I got into knowing that there's something which is again coming up in Nigeria, which is around B2B e-commerce, and startup excites me. It has a different approach to it. So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. I didn't think that I would be here for 3 years in the second stint, but the way it happened, we are here. I'm still here trying to build something. So that's how it happened.
So what is that one USP of Indian retail versus Nigerian retail? Both of them have one USP, which you think?
So common, I would talk about the common points, and I would also talk about the different points. Common point is both runs very strong on the trust factor. So typically a retail outlet is essentially the heart of the neighborhood. So in India, they call it Kirana. They know everything around them. I mean, their whole business is built around relationships.
Credit.
It's not about buying and selling goods, but it's more about knowing people. So that's the kind of network and impact which happens. The difference, I would say that because Nigeria as a country is not an agrarian country, or not a lot of produce happens within Nigeria, the type of categories and products, if you see, they are still limited to certain categories. So I would say there is still a lot of opportunities and potential to get more assortment and more products and more offering to the consumer. So that I would say that typical Kirana store in India versus typical retail outlet in Nigeria, the type of product they carry differs a lot. The sizes, the whole go-to-market approach. So that differs a little.
But as per your experience in India versus Nigeria, which obviously Nigeria is a growing market, but how do you perceive Indian market in 10 years down the line?
So both have extreme potentials, and the fair share, I would say, because of the growing population, both have a very young population. Median age in Nigeria, they say somewhere about 30s, in their 30s, and same thing with India. I mean, 1.1 billion people there. Both have a very high population density, growing up cities, metros, bigger, population trying to strive something. So I would say, I mean, in terms of future, this is one territory which is recession proof.
Okay.
I mean, this is one area where economy goes up or goes down. I mean, you got to eat. So the retail ecosystem.
But what is that one thing you have gained from experience that this surely works in India, but it doesn't work in Nigeria, and vice versa? Maybe it can be any kind of approach.
So I mean, I'm still learning. It's not like you get the answer all the time. But I would say what has worked for India, and I believe what will work for Nigeria, I would say two things, not just one. What happened with Geo made internet dirt cheap in India. And because of internet getting very cheap, everything around online thrived. So consolidation around online thrived and everything. That ecosystem gave a big boost to e-commerce segment. I mean, quick commerce, e-commerce, B2B, whatever you call it. I mean, there are a lot of online companies which are trying to do a lot of things, and people really don't want to go out. There's a lot of friction. I mean, there is traffic, there is weather, there is dirt, and it's very common in both of any of the developing world, right? So I think that is one bit where internet getting cheaper made it work. And second is the ecosystem which built towards making the services possible. And I would kind of point it down to the logistics services around. Just to give you a thought, for sending goods from Bangalore to somewhere about Shillong, large distance, right? A 500-gram packet would cost you then somewhere about 60 to 70, less than $1. So that kind of ecosystem where sending and transferring and movement of goods with the proper tracking and everything made it so simpler for so many people to try out a lot of stuff. So that thrived the whole, business around the whole e-commerce and quick.
Same thing you'll not get in Nigeria.
Yeah, Nigeria
Because
has
I
still
think transport is
transport is
costly.
very very costly. The infra has still got a lot to do, and I believe with the new approach around developing the infra from stable government, I think that will give a big boost in Nigeria.
So does geographical location also determine the nature of your startup?
It did. I would say not very. I mean, geography wise, what happens is essentially you try to look for the support systems, which helps to grow the
Business.
in whatever businesses. So support system around a startup would be around how great your networking could be around people, how great the infrastructures are available. So I was into e-commerce, so I would say about logistics infrastructure, where you want to put your office, and whether you get good talent from that place in the right cost structure. So those were the couple of pointers which made a lot of filtering for me to decide upon that I would start it in Bangalore. Same thing in Nigeria for that matter. I mean, majority of the businesses, if you see, I think 99% of the startups in Nigeria would be Lagos-based companies.
Lagos-based.
The very region is about getting the right talent,
Resource.
getting the right infrastructure, getting the right networks, be it about financing, institutions and whatnot. So,
But like in India, for each and everything, you have a startup. Even if you want, for now, I think there's one startup that even if you want to order a tea, 2 o'clock in the morning, you'll get a tea. So do you think, as per your experience, will you see that scenario in Nigeria in past in coming 10 years?
So it's a wave. I mean, they say that Nigeria never saw desktops. Nigeria never saw, those landline telephones. There's a quick jump which happens. They call it, I mean, whatever the world is learning, you don't have to relearn and, relive that life. So India has been a little bit older, I would say, in the startup boom. It started somewhere about when the recession hit, and then economy was coming back in 2007 and 8 after the dot-com boom happened in US. So US, it was mainly about the 90s. India started somewhere about 2008. In Nigeria, you would say that started somewhere about 2014, 2015. That's when. Right now, they're calling it funding winter. A lot of dry matter have, I mean, the capital has gone dry in the market. But I don't think what any developing economy like Mexico or Brazil or India had to do in 10 years, Nigeria has also to do it in 10 years. Nigeria would do it much earlier.
Much faster.
Because they have the learning from all other places. So, yeah, I mean, I see a lot of startups coming in Nigeria. Just it's a matter of time when the economy comes back.
But many startup comes and at the same time, they get closed also.
Yes. That's the nature of
because of the funding or the nature of business.
Yes.
So how do you think one can take care of that? If let's think if I want to take a startup, so funding is one thing. What other thing I should be?
So there is a ground rule, they say, and I learned it hard actually. When I started my startup, I was more eager. I was up in energy, so I jumped directly into it. But I think one should give it a fair amount of thought. What one wants to do.
You need to do your basics.
Your product market fit has to be right. You don't have to burn a lot of money immediately. You need to do they call it pilot. So you need to do a pilot testing, right? I mean, you go to any company, there will be always a background story. I mean, something like Dunzo. The guy started Dunzo in a WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Ran about asking people that, do you need to do something which you can't do? Let me do it for you. A lot of people showed the interest. That's how the first model ran. Zepto, which is again close to a 3 billion valuation right now. The guy started during COVID that, okay, let me arrange for groceries for you guys. I mean, any company go, Swiggy. such a big, right? The founder roamed around the world after quitting the job for 6-7 months in a bicycle journey before deciding that, okay, let me give it a try on delivering, food in small chunk of people in and around Indranagar, a very small,
City.
neighborhood in Bangalore. But it clicked, and there is a tipping point when it comes. So they say that be very frugal, be very cautious about when you're trying to do the pilot, and be very clear about your unit economics is right. And when you can make, $100 turn into $105 with taking care of all the costs and scaling up options very clearly, then it's just a matter of time that 100 can become a million or a billion in time to come.
But is there any one unique startup you think that which India has, Nigeria should have?
A lot, actually.
And it's a free tip you are giving.
No, I feel my head goes towards impact when I think about startups. Startup should not just be about making money. Money should be an outcome, but beyond that, you should be able to solve a problem. If you're not solving a problem, you're forcing to fit a product in the So I think the areas which I believe Nigeria can be very big is health tech, is ed tech, and tourist.
Okay.
So a lot in this would be around to do with governments as well. I mean, but I believe these are the areas which are so undervalued right now, so undervalued. Typically, you visit a private dispensary right now in Nigeria, and you might have to end up paying close to $50 to $100. Whereby in India, it's $3 or $4 to get the consultation. $3 against a $50. I mean, cost to cost also, if you see. And health is a birthright of every citizen. It shouldn't be about the money. It should be about getting the right advices. So yeah, I mean, ed tech, health tech, tourism, these could be the beginning. I mean, right now in Nigeria, majority of things are happening around fintech. But fintech not necessarily solves a lot of problems. I mean, it has a lot of rat race going on there. So yeah.
And is there any unique startup you saw in Nigeria which you thought that you have not seen anywhere in the world? Any unique? It can be idea, it can be the way they are having their supply chain or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to this question, I might have to think a little bit because I'm trying to run around it. So I'll not call it startup per se, but like the Wala system is there in India, right? Which is intrinsic. So
I think even Spain started or somebody started the same.
Oh,
I
is it?
think so. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, I'm not aware about it. But I think what works in Nigeria, which can be ultimately be transformed into a startup, is the resilience and they call it jugaad in India, right?
Yes.
Similar thing exists here, where no matter what happens, but you'll always find a way around to get things done. And people are so much into it that I believe any problem statement which is coming in and creating a market for itself, there'll be always a solution to it.
Yeah.
All it would take is having the right ecosystem. So when the economy will, bounce back, the funds will flow. There are enough people with enough ideas to try out things in Nigeria.
Because if you would have seen like 10 years back, there was not much startup in Nigeria.
Yes.
And I think the boom has come mostly after COVID.
Yes.
Okay, after some serious talk, थोड़ा बकचोदी कर लेते हैं. Amber, like, how is Amber in personal life? First, your point of view, then I'll come to your wife's point of view.
Okay. तो मेरा ऐसा है कि थोड़ा सा चीजें लाइटली लेता हूँ मैं, मतलब नॉट टू सीरियस अबाउट एनीथिंग.
बट सॉरी टू कट यू, इसमें अगर कोई लाइक माय परसेप्शन पर्सनली, इफ आई लुक एट यू एज अ वेरी सीरियस गाय,
okay,
who knows his shit, what he wants to do in life.
That's a different thing. If it's not about knowing your shit makes you very serious in
No, but
things.
your vision is clear. I think so.
Yeah. See, no one gets out alive, they say, right? I mean, so things are the way they are. But ऐसे देखो तो फिर yeah, like I was saying, I don't take things much seriously. Try to keep it simple.
ठीक है, हो जाएगा.
And try to, I mean, whenever I fight with my wife, right, my biggest argument is all about
ठीक है,
मतलब peace is important. Peace of mind is important. So personally, if you'll ask me how how I look at things is around try to keep it simple, try to relax, chill, have your peace with things. Yeah.
So what is your wife's point of view?
I would say she would also have the same perspective, but yeah, but when you're fighting, it's just about the fights between your perspectives. So but yeah, she about me would be, maybe she would say that I'm a little bit careless because of this approach, that you are not too serious. You should be planning about things and stuff like that. Being a startup guy, this is also a thing whereby sometimes you go overboard while taking risk.
So for you, I think it's a correct saying that you should not judge somebody with a book should not be judged by its cover.
Never. Yeah.
So for you, I think it's correct.
Everyone.
I think Ananya is watching this, and I think she should agree with me in this part. So apart from this, like, what are your hobbies, passions?
I'm still building onto it. Something I
No,
think,
like general,
yeah,
whatever
but
hobby, passion.
I think in free time I like to explore a lot of trivial things about things.
Okay.
I like to watch a lot of documentaries.
Okay.
I can talk about a lot of topics because I have seen a lot of stuff
Like,
randomly. I mean, before we became Homo sapiens,
okay, what
I'm
was
just watching a documentary these days. So it's about Neanderthals, how they were living their world and everything. So I mean, random stuff,
like what you just told me before we started this podcast about Amul.
Yeah. So like,
So if you can repeat the
no, I
same
mean,
thing.
random stuff, right? I mean, yeah, like I was saying, there's a company which makes milk and is a very big cooperative in India, goes by Amul as the brand. And suddenly you would see somebody advertising Amul Macho, which is the undergarments, division. So try to see the connection between the two companies, one which makes milk and, goes about the milk of India and whatever around the consumables. And second thing is you are seeing somebody that they are making innerwear. So doesn't,
Doesn't
fit.
match.
So extreme trivial examples keeps on coming. So yeah, like in the free time, I try to explore a lot of Wikipedias, documentaries, and like other regular stuff, Netflix and chill, read books. I do play chess. I like that's kind of my stress buster. I'm there on chess.com. You can challenge me in the free time whenever you want. But yeah, I do play chess. And aside from this,
You like to travel.
yeah, and like, yeah, traveling is.
So, मतलब कौन सी countries you have traveled? For
So,
work, for pleasure, anything?
so work has taken me to a lot of place.
Okay.
With work, I have visited some of the beautiful places like Indonesia. I've been to Dubai, Thailand. I've been to Greece. I've been to the US. And leisurely, I have traveled good chunk of European places. Although it was short and sweet, but I would say, I mean, I still have a lot of traveling to do. So my share of travel is still.
Any next travel plan?
Next travel plan, I would like to do India properly. I mean,
गाँव में जाके type का?
not really. I would like to travel through and through India. What has happened is when I was growing up, majority of us spend our major time in studies. India is built that way. So being in residential school, then straight away going into engineering, then B school, did not give me enough time to explore a lot of places. Then I started working outside India. Normally, when you're doing job in India, you explore. So frankly speaking, I would like to.
One city, one place you'd like to explore
in India? Eastern and northern India.
Okay.
Both the sides.
Okay.
So northern means Manali, Kasol.
So, and what about Nigeria? As in how much you have done the exploration here?
Again, due to the work, have traveled
me everywhere.
left and right in Nigeria. I've been from anywhere about Ekpe in Lagos and Badagry in Lagos to as extreme as Abakaliki and as extreme as Jos. I've been to, so I've been to places.
So, after traveling, like, who all are there in your family? Mom, dad?
So, we are three brothers. Mom and dad are there. Dad is retired. He was a teacher.
Okay.
And like I was telling, he was very keen into
Studying.
getting us educated in a proper way. My elder brother, he works in a He works in sales
Hmm.
in a hearing aid company called
Okay.
Verticon.
Okay. India.
And
India.
in India, yeah. And my younger brother, he is also in India. He works in a digital marketing company.
Okay.
So then I have a sister-in-law. I'm married. The younger brother is running away from marriage.
Hmm.
Maybe soon he'll get married. So yeah, that's pretty much a small family what we have.
And how was your childhood?
Childhood was fun. Childhood was, if I
Like,
look
if you
back,
remember any precious memory you have,
the
which turned your life upside down.
any specific memory, I would say the way the upbringing was, right. I lived in a village, like I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Life was simple. You used to go early to the bed. You used to rise early in the morning. I come from a family where we used to keep cows, and
So all organic things you
yeah,
have
I mean,
taken.
right now also my parents, they do live in a small house which is very close to our. So we kind of shifted to a city, but city life has not been very, they don't like much of city life. So we have taken a small farm kind of place. They do a lot of farming and other stuff. So yeah, so the village life is what I would say, and the way the whole social fabric was there. Lot many times I have taken my lunch and dinner in somebody else's house.
That's Indian culture.
I mean, you cook a good, vegetable, or you cook a good dish, and normally in those days you would see that somebody is bringing that dish to your house. I mean, people, without any expectation. It's not about money or anything. There's just this relationship
About the
between your
caring.
neighbors and others. So those kind of things which I miss. Those kind of simple living gave me a good foundation to be, I would say, to be grounded. So one thing which has helped me in all through my career and in future also, I would say, is those kind of upbringing which made me grounded. Yeah.
So coming to your personal life, like you said, you're married.
Yep.
When was it? Who is I know her. Who is she? And like,
So I met my wife during my work only. So I came to Nigeria. I was working in this group, and yeah, she also joined 2 years after. We So sometimes things just strike, right? So we met in the work, started dating, found out that things are working, the chemistry is right, and yeah, from there the journey was, finally we decided that okay, let's take the next step.
so for her, as per your understanding, who is Amber in one word from her point of view?
From her, you should ask this question
No,
as
I
well,
will
right?
ask her, but I just want to guess. I want you to guess it if it is same.
It would be presumptuous from my side. I would
No,
assume it,
no issue.
but Amber is somebody she can bank upon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how married life has changed your entire life in terms of personal and professional?
Like for any other guy, right? Marriage does, not just guy, I would say. I mean, it's spousal. I mean, it goes both ways. So when you're living alone, you are more about yourself. Take decisions around you, be it about professional, where you want to go out, what you want to do with your time and everything, what you want to do with your career. I mean, as small as how you want to spend your Sunday to as big as in next 5 years where you would be. When you're married, the same
You have to think about them
answers you have
before
to
you
think
take
about.
a decision.
Of course, you have to think about the other person. Take always that in consideration.
So, like meeting your wife, coming to Nigeria, do you think luck plays a factor in any one person's life?
Luck
Or
always has a
or
role
you
to
have
play, I feel.
you have a story to support that?
I have a lot of stories actually around luck.
We have plenty time.
I would go back to the thing which changed my life when I was saying very small. I was 10-year-old when I was giving this examination for appearing into the scholarship,
You
which
can
got me
mix
into
Hindi
good.
English if you want.
Right, cool. So we were 18 people who were going to go for this examination. My uncle was getting married, so there was nobody in the family. My dad was there. Mom and brothers, they have traveled for the marriage, and my father is not very good homemaker. He is a teacher, right? So we got late for the bus. The bus had to take us 20 kilometers away to the exam center.
Okay.
And there was a teacher assigned to us. Because we were late, he just left.
Okay.
So
That teacher left.
that teacher left. Now we went to got another bus. That bus took us there. On the midway, the bus got punctured. And I'm a 10-year-old kid, no guardian, nobody. I'm just stranded on the road. In next 1 hour, the exam has to start. And suddenly there was one more bus which was coming, and they saw that, okay, what is this kid doing there? And there was a guy from my village. He said that, okay, he just asked me, where are you going in your school dress? What are you doing here? And I'm like, I told him the story that I have to appear for the exam. He arranged for the travel. I went, I reached in the nick of the time. I gave the exam, got through. Those are the 7 years of foundation which built me on my education. From there, I came to the professional career. So that happened. That I would say had a something was happening wrong in my life, and then I kind of got back. Same thing happened during I discussed a little bit around how I got the free coaching bit where I was not so keen about doing MBA, but that's how MBA happened. And like the stint in Nigeria, the company came to our campus not to hire us
Okay.
as freshers.
Okay.
They just came in to hire experienced people. We were not the experienced guys. Somehow they couldn't get what they wanted. They opened it up and I got my calling. So that happened. And yeah, I mean, because that happened, so I met my future wife here. So
So do you think luck is the only factor?
not really. There's a saying in one of the book, I don't remember the name, but they say that there's no substitute for hard work, or there's no substitute for perseverance. I mean, when you are trying something, you gotta try it. But they also say that you can always work to increase your surface area of luck. Be in the right place in the right time and try doing the right thing. So for sure, you would get the opportunity converted. If you are, let's say, I mean, if you're trying, a lot of people who tried to start companies in America in the late 90s, right? They were quite successful. And a lot of companies, talk about the recent $1 trillion company which came into being, the chip making company. The story goes very simple. I mean, the guy started it in America and he made it big. So being in the best of the places, trying to do things around where you are surrounded with best of the people gives you that, edge, and that you call it increasing your opportunity or luck factor also plays a role.
What is your take on that destiny decides where you will be?
I would have my take that it's not essentially like that, because then you would stop trying. So destiny is what choices you make in your life. It has a lot of impact into where you are gonna end at. Yeah. So you have to be aware about what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. So let's take, if you're saying you were at the right time at the right place in your lifetime. So if not Nigeria, then where you would have been?
Definitely India.
And what you would be doing?
Struggling for sure, trying to do something in each day. I mean, if I look back how I have made decisions, it was more around how things came at me. And off late, I have started thinking also that one should plan for sure about a lot of things. But life as it happens, if you'll tell me that 10 years before, 20 years before, if you go back and what advice you would give, I would say that think more about where you want to land at. Look for counseling, try to see for others' success and others' failures to build your own trajectory. Life happened as it came to me.
Okay,
So,
you never planned that I will go like this?
Not much, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Like coming back to startup topic, what is the future of startup in India versus, let's take Nigeria, Africa as a whole, and globally?
So I see it as startup is nothing but it's an institute which is trying to solve an existing problem or a future problem which could come.
Okay.
And all the companies, what they're trying to do, they're trying to do that bit. And because it's fast pace, there are a bunch of people come together on an idea and try to execute it, and that's what. So places like Nigeria, places like India, we have a lot of things to be worked upon. They are still very lower when it comes to the development cycle.
Nigeria.
I mean, both India and
Okay,
Nigeria,
okay.
both the countries, I would say in that
Okay,
case.
okay.
Human Development Index, Gini coefficient, the difference between the haves and have-nots, and infrastructure, medical, insurance, a lot of things. So when these, I would not say these are the problems, these are the opportunities.
Opportunities.
So as long as these things are existing, where you are not this, Singaporean place where everything is kind of perfect, or
Mhm.
you're making this Elysium kind of place where everything is perfect, you have a number of opportunities to look.
So maybe next 10 years, how do you see like retail sector as a startup grown in Nigeria?
So
What things are not currently existing and what will come?
So I think what digitally we are trying to do, and I believe in the overall scheme of the things, that you're trying to make this guy make the retailer, or in this case, make an informed decision on the basis of available information. So what we're trying to do is bring in effective supply chain networks so that they don't have to wait for goods to, exhaust. Things can be delivered at the doorstep. Pricing information should be proper with you. You should be aware about how the ROI calculations are being made, so you can make better decisions around what to stock, how to keep, how to sell, at what price to sell for, and stuff like that. So in next 10 years, I believe what we are trying to do here in Nigeria, and is about making each of these small retailer into a modern day supermarket, where they can carry a lot of assortment, they can have great information with them, and they can actually expand their shop from all the basic infrastructure. Like they should have electricity always with them, they should have a high fintech integrated with them. People can come and pay directly with whatever formats. They can be financially included. I mean, today if they have to go to take a loan from a bank, nobody would give them because they don't have a credit history to them. So all those things, I believe in
But
tech.
that is your, as in that is your company's vision.
I think it's similar, right?
Similar.
Because
Okay.
what company is trying to do, and what eventually you also see the segment to eventually land it, it's kind of similar to the.
And what about India's 10-year down the line?
In the retail segment, or
Retail segment.
as a okay retail segment, India as well. I believe, I think they say there are two India. There is India and there is Bharat, right? So huge opportunities to explore in the rural India. It still is not yet exposed to a lot of developmental side, to a lot of efficiencies. So I believe a lot of opportunities lie there in the rural India. Yeah.
Okay. So like how they say कि एक brand, एक company या एक product का boom आता है, then it falls flat. तो I don't know, retail का ऐसा कभी आएगा या startups as a whole का ऐसा कभी आएगा कि अभी बहुत boom पे चल रहा है, let's take India में, और एक time आएगा कि saturate हो गए. That means कि फिर that is my perspective, but वही है कि हर चीज का, हर problem का एक solution होना चाहिए.
Okay, so I would put it in a way whereby, as humans, we were like maybe 100 years ago or 200 years ago, we were maybe 3 billion people, 4 billion people. Now we are somewhere about 8 billion, 7 to 8 billion people. So as long as we are around and we are growing, things would be needed. There is food, there is essentials, and then there is all sort of things which you need in life based on Maslow hierarchies, wherever you are. But the point is, as a company or as a brand, there will always come a cycle to the company or to the brand that they're becoming sluggish, or they're reaching a plateau. Maybe they would die down.
Yeah.
The difference between the company which are 100 or 150-year-old versus the company which dies in a year or 2 year is around how great is your foundation, how good you are about reading into what is changing in and around you. And if you have a fundamental, a strong set, and if you are innovating with time, with respect to what your consumer wants, or even about pivoting it, that would. Classic example people give is around the Fuji films. They're great in cameras. Or the Microsoft phones, who did not budge from Symbian platform to Android, and Android came and just killed
Kill everyone.
Nokia phones or Microsoft phones, and eventually everybody had to move to Android. Same thing happened to Paytm. Paytm never wanted to, in India, never wanted to be open to UPI payments or common platform payment. They were like, if you have to pay, you have to use my app, otherwise I'm not allowing you.
Same
All
thing
such
like
things.
Jio.
Yeah.
Like internet was a costly thing in India.
So exactly. So what's happening around you as a brand or as a company, you have to be careful about being very adamant, and you have to be flexible around what consumer wants. And if you're able to make those changes, you can be a Tata, you can be, a Piaggio, you can be a Ford.
Not overnight.
Yeah, I mean, it takes hundreds of years and maybe thousands of great brains to build a company. It's never a one-person job.
So let's take, if I want to have my own startup, so like for a amateur, like what are the 10 steps they should take to at least start a startup? Just some easy
So
10 steps.
I would say start around an idea, be very convinced about it, be very careful about using the resources, time, money, build a prototype or do a bootstrapping before you make it large. While you are doing all that bit, make sure that you have thought through about all the components, cost structure, unit economics. If the idea works, how would I cater to my first 10 customers, first 100 customers, first 1000 customers? Your cost structure should not be a variable cost structure. Your cost structure should support economies of scale. Meaning once after a certain point, your same cost should start giving you larger value. And beyond that, you need to work on bounce it off with a lot of people so that you can make your idea, foolproof. You need to also work on creating a great network, because most of the ideas die either of the bad team, or maybe if the team and everything is right, then also you don't have funding or you don't have the right network to raise funding. So you need to work, and it's a very closed group of people essentially when it comes to the startup funding sector. So yeah, toss up the idea, make it foolproof, make sure that you're parallelly working on.
And can you include problem should be unique?
I would say you need to have your customers. I would not say that the problem or the solution has to be unique. Of course, if you're doing a Me Too thing, then you are just competing and you don't have a moat, they call it. You don't have a point of differentiation. But I would say if you're solving a problem, if you have found a set of customers looking for, I'll give an example. Selling bread is a very common thing, right? You can bake bread normally.
Yeah.
But if you have baked the bread out of certain ingredients which are organic, which are showing health benefit and whatnot, and you're bringing this in a good packaging to all the informed users, they would go for it. So if you'll call it, is it a unique idea? I would say no. But can it fly? Yes.
Maybe of the USP.
Yes.
So like how I understand, a Nigerian consumer every time want to, let's take, I come up with something new product or something. So a Nigerian consumer want to associate himself or herself with that product. So maybe in terms of the communication, in terms of the packaging, in terms of everything. So do you think, or have you seen that same thing works all over the globe?
So yes,
or here the consumers are unique.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Basic human principles don't change. They call it first principles. But then nuances around how you market it, how people perceive things, what lifestyle changes. Driving a car in some of the Middle East country by a woman is considered as a privilege. And off late in the
Saudi,
maybe 5-6 years, in the last 3-4 years only, this has broken off. But incidentally, if you look into, women were given the right to vote in as late as 1920s. Before that, they didn't have a say who they are choosing, So some things are contextual, some things are very cultural. So basic innate human nature don't change, but there's a lot to do with the contextual setting of the place. So yeah, Nigerian consumer is different in that.
So, as per our experience, they are out of this world. in some aspects.
Yeah, you gotta treat your customer segment like and your product like a baby.
Yeah.
Figure out a clear connection between the need gap thing. So things are required. People are really looking for it. When you're providing that service or product, it fits the proposition, and from there you need to build. So I would say behind any business idea or behind any product, enough of customer research
Should
or
be.
consumer research has to be there, irrespective of the location.
And do you think that in like we have seen in past 10 years, what a Nigerian consumer was thinking when we came 2013 and this is 24? Do you think consumer has grown in Nigeria?
Yes, of course. I mean,
Like in what aspects?
see, in that time there was no e-commerce.
Hmm.
Jumia and Konga came a little
Just,
late. Smartphone penetration was also small, and rather than smartphone penetration, a lot of digital marketing and things around that was not happening. People were glued to, I would not say, I mean, 10 years is still a short time, but I can make a comment around people were not exploring a lot of options. But the type of categories and product you see in the market right now, and modern trade coming in here, a lot of offerings has increased. So people are becoming more informed around things day by day. People are talking about health, consciousness, taking decisions around what impacts their body, what does not. So a lot of, I mean, those things are coming in picture.
And apart from retail, which other sector do you think that will boom in Nigerian market in, let's take 10 or 15 years?
So I see that, like I was saying earlier, health as a segment. I see infrastructure as a segment. I see education as a segment. I see transport as a segment. These are the areas where a lot of scope is there. So aside from food and deliveries and whatnot, I mean, these are also the area where I see a lot of gaps are right now. And where there are gaps,
you will find a solution for that.
Yeah, people will look for solutions and they will try to build things around it.
Okay, so I think that's it for this episode. We would again like that Amber will come back and share some other experience, but next time maybe we'll try to record it in Hindi. This we planned it for Hindi podcast, but it turned out to be an English podcast, but it's fine.
No, Prateek, I see. Being a startup guy again, I thought around it while I was giving the answer. I was like, English would cut across with more number of people.
No.
Nigeria people might not.
Yeah, but next
Understand
time we can
Hindi.
have let's take a unique topic
Yes,
across
of
our
course.
people.
Always.
So just a suggestion. I know he will come back again. We'll call him. So thank you, Amar bhai.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ananya. You married this guy. So he's still back in Nigeria. And thank you for our lovely audience and some supportive staff who are sleeping here. So I think it's now to close the podcast. So thank you and keep watching.